Welcome to Soil and Soul, a Catholic Passage podcast. Before beginning today's episode, we give God the first fruits of time and attention by listening to His Word and reflecting upon it with one of our spiritual fathers. May you be blessed with the Lord in your minds, on your lips, and in your hearts to bear the fruit that eternally
This is Father
endures.
Craig Collison, a retired priest of the Diocese of Sioux City, and I have the honor of sharing a few thoughts with you today. We're going to speak today about the Gospel of Luke. It'd be chapter 11, verses 37 to 41. It says, After Jesus had spoken, a Pharisee invited him to dine at his home. He entered and reclined at table to eat. The Pharisee was amazed to see that he did not observe the prescribed washing before the meal. The Lord said to him, "O you Pharisees, although you cleanse the outside of cup and dish, inside you're filled with plunder and evil. You fools! Did not the maker of the outside also make the inside? But as to what is within, give alms, and behold, everything will be clean for you." This is the gospel of the Lord. You know, we think sometimes that Jesus didn't have any use for the Pharisees at all. The Pharisees, one of the groups of people within Judaism at the time, were the ones that were very strict about following their rules, letter by letter, and we call it the letter of the law. And they would get very upset with people that would not do that. Jesus, I don't think we call him the first Christian, not at all. That came, with others that came to believe in Jesus. That title came a whole lot later. But as a good Jew, here he is being taken to task by someone who he went to dinner to their house. So he obviously had some, I guess you'd say, friendship, or at least respected some of the people that of course, were Pharisees. But if this guy was upset, this Pharisee, upset because Jesus didn't go through the prescribed procedure and the law on how to wash your hands and everything else before dinner, oh my. Jesus, I think, about had it with, this guy. Now, think about who wrote this gospel, Luke, for a second. He was also, a very close companion with St. Paul. They were very good friends. And the gospel then, teeters on that really dangerous legalism and short-sightedness of what the Pharisaic world was at the time. Our world and our church remain plagued, I think, today by this very same worldview. And we do well to heed the harsh language of Paul and Jesus in the readings today. If we don't want to be fools, we ought to not claim to be very wise then. And if we want to live according to the truth of God rather than a lie, we ought to take stock of what our choices and attitudes, even more than the rules all the time, revere. If we want to host God in Jesus, we ought to inspect our own hearts to see what clutters, what darkens, and mars them before we pass judgment on the darkness and sinfulness of somebody else.
Take a moment to recall that one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. Pause to reflect upon God's word to you today. Did you notice anything captivate your attention or stir in your heart? While reflecting, share your thoughts with God. When you are ready, resume this podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of Soil and Soul. God bless you and thank you for joining us.
Welcome to Soil and Soul, a new Christian podcast for those who want to invest in yields that count most. 5 days a week during planting and harvest seasons, Soil and Soul looks to help you sow seeds and reap a golden harvest. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Soil and Soul. I'm Aaron Borch, and I'm today's host. Today we have another episode of Tuesday's Toolbox. I hope all of you are doing well, whether you're farming and in the field and getting quite a bit done the last few weeks with the drier weather, at least in our neck of the Midwest. And today we actually got rained out. We actually really needed the rain. It's been so terribly dry lately, but it was kind of disappointing to get started in the field and then think you were able to get back again after we got rained out a couple different times, starting just lightly. But we're definitely rained out at this point. And so we were working on a couple different odd jobs before we moved to the next location where we're going to be putting grain into. So I'm actually currently at one of our fields that has a small acreage and has a bin site that we inherited when we bought the farm years ago. So they're not very big bins. They're older, but they still work because we fill them each year and we don't have much overhead in them, and they work, at least for filling from off this field. Anyway, still haven't cleaned the bins out. And someone's got to do it, right? So I'm in here with a broom at the moment because I got done with all the other things I was working on at the time. And so I thought, hey, I got to record an episode still. I thought, let's talk about a broom. And so I'm just using like a basic wide shop broom with stiff bristles as I try to sweep up what's left of the crumbs and debris and extra stuff that's inside the floor of this bin. And it's not the most glamorous job, but isn't that kind of the stereotype of really any job involving a broom? How often do you say, "Oh man, I'm excited and I worked my way up the line on this job. Now I get to use a broom." No, it's typically you're thinking, "Oh, that's custodial work or that's grunt work." And in the farming business, it's like, well, this is what you hand the high school kid or the new guy who you don't really know what else to give him for a job at the moment. Go sweep the shop. That's the common thing, right? Go sweep the shop until I grab you for another job. I mean, I remember hearing that many times as a younger kid from my dad, and seeing it done plenty of times with the new guy, the new hire. But I think the one thing about using a broom, whether it's in the shop or in this case it's in a bin, is that it might have this stereotype of being like a lesser job, or someone that's using it might be of lesser importance or lesser stature in, say, a business or in an operation. But let's be honest, everyone has value and every job has value. If you didn't have the broom to sweep up a mess, well, and more importantly, if you didn't have the person that would clean up the mess, and whether that's with a broom or whether you just use it as a metaphor for modern times, and depending on the job, you might have a mess just in an office. Someone's got to take care of it. And let's always thank our secretaries in whatever business you're thinking of that takes care of a lot of work in the background. And it's usually a thankless job, or it's underappreciated anyway. And without jobs like that take care of the stuff in the background, the people at the forefront or the face of a business, I mean, the business wouldn't run smoothly, right? And that goes for someone who runs your books in your business, or in a school or in a church or whatever business you have, someone that's taking care of the office, or going back to just the literal, someone that runs custodial work. I mean, it's very valuable and super important. And I think we can just pull that into our everyday lives too, even in our own homes. Let's never think that we are above any given job, right? Most of us are like, well, I have to clean the toilet. Someone's got to do it. It's got to be done at some point, but you dread it, right? Or you might dread taking out the broom and sweeping the kitchen. And so how often are we looking to get automated ways to do that? You're buying the robot vacuum, which they never seem to do a good enough job. It'd be much faster just to grab a broom and do it yourself, honestly, and more effective. But we sort of dread those jobs. And why is that? When we have all these fine luxuries compared to what it was so many years ago to make our home lives easier. And I'm not railing against that and saying that we need to go back to, 100, 200 years ago, whatever you want to say, where they had literally none of that stuff. And let's go back to not having electricity. Let's not have like running water. I'm not saying any of that, of course not. But let's just be very appreciative of what we have and these blessings in these tools to get these jobs done. And in a pinch, let's just seize the moment and let's just grab that broom and be thankful that we have the physical means and the short bit of time that we have to just indulge ourselves in that job and take pride in the job. I mean, even if it's a 10-minute job of just cleaning something up, there's something to be said about taking pride in cleaning up after ourselves or even in someone else, right? I mean, we all know that young kids, especially babies, I mean, have to be completely cleaned up after, and they're not going to do it. They can't do it. So we're constantly cleaning things. And I know like diapers don't smell the best, but we're doing that as a service and we're pouring ourselves into loving someone else. And sometimes loving someone else in our household can be cleaning up for another one, you know? Sometimes it means doing that little job for even our spouse that hopefully they might notice, and sometimes they do go unnoticed, right? Often enough, I'm speaking as a man here, as a guy, a lot of times a wife I'm just going to stereotype here, like my own wife, and other wives, she'll do a lot of things around the house that might go unnoticed for a while just because she's typically doing them more often than I am, let's say. Well, and so this is just as much of a reminder to myself as to just talking about it out loud to anybody here, but I think we can just all do a little bit better job about just noticing these things, whether that's involving a broom or just tidying up the bedroom. I mean, I've honestly never understood the value of having throw pillows, a gazillion of them, putting on top of a bed that you're going to just taking off right away in time to actually sleep. But you also have to just take a moment to think about it and recognize that, well, it does make it look nicer, and she's putting value in making the inside of our home look nice, right? It's a representation of our family, of how we posture ourselves. And sometimes that can involve cleaning a toilet bowl, and sometimes that can involve me grabbing a broom. And that goes for, again, on the farm and your business as well. Again, this is a reminder to myself too, just as much. I'm not preaching here, but never be ashamed of grabbing the broom or the scrubber and cleaning up. And no job is too low for any of us. So we're all equal. We're all God's creation. We all have a gift to share, and we should all value the others around us. So, anyway, that's what I have off the cuff today. Hope you're all doing quite well, and I will talk to you again later this week.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Soil and Soul, and we hope that it blesses you. Please stay tuned during the week for the other daily shows that we offer as part of this special ministry project we're providing during the peak seasons of planting and harvest. Also, if you'd like to find out more about Catholic Passage, how you might collaborate with us, or even support our mission, please visit us at CatholicPassage.com. Most importantly, you can support us with your prayers. We'll be praying for you. Please pray for us.